Welcome back to the Respect the Drive podcast. I'm Tedward, and Happy New Year. Happy 2022. Today's episode was recorded a few days before New Year's Eve, so it's a little bit of a New Year's episode. We talk about resolutions, but honestly, I think we just air grievances. I've got Eddy Segal on the show today, which I'm very excited about because he's one of my closest friends, and it's somebody that, if we're going to decompress 2021, who better than Eddy Segal to come on the podcast? So it's a fun show. I think we cover a lot of different topics, and this one, this is for the boys. This is a good one. This is one that you're probably going to disagree with us on some level or another, but that's fine. All I know is that right now I want snow. I feel like if I live in New England and I have to bear a winter, I don't get that beautiful California sun every day. No, if you're going to live in New England, you don't want dreary, cold, and wet. You just want snow. Like, just dump it on so that way we can at least have something tangible to complain about or fun and powdery to drive in. I did a video the other day. We did get a little bit of snow around Christmas, and I used my electric leaf blower to blow the snow off the M3. And I thought, before I do this, I better grab the camera. And it's funny what will do like 1 million views on an Instagram reel, something really silly. But what's even more mind-blowing is the comment section. It's always fascinating because for the most part, people get it. They're like, oh, hey, that's pretty fun. Or, hey, I haven't thought of that before. Or I'm going to try it. Or what's the leaf blower? I'm not affiliated with it. I don't sell it. But then the other side of it where they're like, well, what are you going to do out the ice? What are you going to do when the snow is heavy? That'll never work when it's heavy as concrete. Well, it doesn't have to work when it's heavy as concrete. It worked this time, and it was fun to watch. Guys, I just implore you for 2022, just have some more fucking fun. Back off of the insanity of just shitting on every fucking thing you see. Like, that's all you have to do to make the world a little bit better. And I'm guilty of this myself. I see this shit too. But like, God, you don't have to comment on it. It doesn't bother me in a real way. Like, I'm not upset by somebody commenting some shitty thing on my post. I'm a YouTuber. I'm used to it. But I gotta say, just chill. Just chill. Let a fun thing be a fun thing. Just let it be. So anyway, that's enough of that. But the snow is coming, and I am glad that my cars are safe and sound. The M5 and the 911 are at Garage 42 in Woburn, Massachusetts. Secure, climate controlled. It's a beautiful place to keep a car. And they're opening their new facility in 2022 in Acton, Massachusetts. Their capacity is going to increase by like 100 or 150 cars. So get on that list if you're trying to find good car storage in Massachusetts. This is really exciting stuff. And as I've talked about in a recent YouTube video about getting rid of my M3, of course it's throwing new problems at me. This is like a relationship that won't die. It's like every time you try to get out, it sucks you back in, and you know that there's an expiration date. Right now, I feel like I'm on a cruise with somebody that I want to break up with, but I got to wait until I get to the destination so we don't have to spend the rest of the time together. But like this car, its departure is imminent because my new car is coming in like March or April. So I'm just trying to ride it out. I'm just trying to have a reasonable relationship with my M3 until it goes. But of course, I back out of my driveway the other day, and what's under the car? Gasoline. I've seen a lot of leaking fluids from my BMWs in my day, and I always fix them. I always keep them up to par, but I've never had a fuel leak before. So that freaked me out a little bit. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I was on my way to shoot a car, but luckily my mechanic at Wild Motorsport was able to fit me in like immediately. So instead of going to the job to go film the car, I went straight to my mechanic, as you do. That's like the most personal relationship I have, I think, is with my mechanic. Anyway, I bring the car in, and all I really wanted to know was, am I in imminent danger? And what we found out was that when we took the rear seat out and looked at the tank from the top, there's an evap line that goes in, and that fitting was a little cracked. So the failure mode that occurred was that for the first time like ever, I filled my fuel tank and then parked the car that night. I always fill the fuel tank and then drive to wherever I'm going. So I never ever would have seen a drop of fuel coming from this little fitting, pissing out the top of the tank and dripping down the bottom, had I not done this. So who knows how long it's been like this, but it means the tank has to be dropped to replace this line. So that's what we're going to do, because I'm not going to sell the car to somebody with leaking fuel. But before you get all up in a tizzy, no, I'm not one of those double clickers on the pump. Whenever I fill my tank, I let it click once and I'm done. I'm done. I do not force feed my fuel tank. So I guess for now, I'm just going to be filling my tank to like 3/4 because I don't really want it pissing out the top until this gets replaced. But enough about my problems. Let's hear about Eddy's problems. So let's jump into the podcast. Tedward, it's the New Year's show, the New Year's Eve show, where we get to dream about 2022 and all the wonderful things we're going to do next year that's going to be better than this year.
Oh my God, I can't wait to hear your resolutions.
I'm going to be fucking ripped.
I just want to say this right off the fucking rip. I'm still struggling to figure out what the hell happened in 2020, and now it's 2 years from then.
I'm confused. I don't know. So a lot of times when YouTubers, they'll be like, it's been 2 years since I blank. I'm like, I don't even remember. Like, if you were like, when did you quit your job? I have to like legitimately go back into records and be like, wait a minute, when did I do that? And it was 2020. It was March 2020. But yeah, it's hard for me to like reconcile what's gone on. But overall, you know, even though the world basically fell apart, I did pretty good. Apparently, I thrive in the apocalypse. Apparently, I'm like a fucking cockroach. How about you?
How have I survived the last 2 years? I'd say I came out, I don't know if on top is the correct way to say it, but well, I'm still here. So that for one, that's good.
Hey, nothing like avoiding a funeral to be a goal of every year.
I haven't been sick or ill, and my family's doing okay, and I'm still able to do what I love to do, which is talk shit with you and race cars.
That sounds like a good situation. I can vibe with that.
So,
well, we'll get to questions later on because I put up an Instagram ask and said like, hey, what do you got for questions for me and Eddy for the end of the year podcast? So I've got a few that we'll bring up, and maybe that is something that I might bring into like 2022 as all right, you got to put your mouse down. You can't,
I don't have any mouse.
What is that?
I don't have anything.
What the hell was that noise?
What noise?
You're like a fucking toddler.
I don't hear anything. I know, literally, I wasn't touching anything. So whatever you heard is
everyone in their car just jumped.
Crazy.
Everyone's almost crashed their car now because of that noise.
You're starting to lose it. I know it's been a long year, and you're starting to hear things, but I swear I didn't touch anything.
Oh my God. So. All right. Actually, I want to tell a story before we get into cars and stuff because we're going
story time.
Well, we're going up to New Hampshire this weekend for New Year's Eve, and you know it's the boys and our significant others, and it'll be a nice little time. All trying to stay safe and healthy and all the things. But David, for whatever reason, decides he's really got his heart set on a game, like a gift giving game. He's like, let's do Secret Santa. I want to do Secret Santa, and so I'm like, I mean, David, I don't really want to do Secret Santa because look, here's the deal. I was in a fraternity. I know I don't seem like a frat boy, but I was in a fraternity. And the big thing, we called it Santa Pig. And so for Santa Pig, we would do a Secret Santa. And so everyone gets a name, right? And they don't know who's getting what from who. And you have to give them basically like a shitty gift or a mean gift or something, and then a poem. And you got to write a poem. So you give someone a gift and a poem. And usually, you know, the cheeky ones, it's like you give them a bunch of lube and a dildo and you write some like nasty thing about how they're, you know, whatever. It is what it is.
I feel like that happened to you and that's why you're bringing this up.
I didn't get, maybe that did happen to me. Yeah, that probably happened to me.
Your first intro to dildos and lubricant.
I wish they bought me a dildo. They were probably too cheap. They probably just bought me the lube. An equally great gift. But anyway, that's the spirit of that. But so David's like, so I'm telling him, I'm like, I don't know if this is a good idea for our group because it's not like a big group of guys and we're all going to be like little assholes to each other. It's like our girlfriends, boyfriends. And I'm like, well, like, what if your girlfriend has to buy someone else's girlfriend a gift and it's like she's got to be mean to this girl that she doesn't really know? Like that doesn't compute. So to me, I was like, I like the idea, I like the spirit, but in execution I don't think this is going to work. So anyway, long story short, you come in and instead of supporting my very rational reasoning for not wanting to do this, you're like, fuck yeah, let's do a fucking gift giving game. Okay, So that then 2 days goes by. 2 days goes by, and we're supposed to be there on Friday. It's already Wednesday, and he has not given anyone a name of what we're supposed to do. All he said is like, don't spend more than $20.22 because 2022. And I'm like, well, who are we supposed to get gifts for? And he goes, oh, I don't know.
Okay,
So
hold
we
on.
missed a
We need
whole big part of the Secret Santa. Where this is like, it's like Arrested Development when everyone's at the party and they all go speech, 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 but they're not saying it to anyone in particular, so no one gives a speech. They just chant speech.
Yeah, so hold on. I need to pause you on this story because from my perspective, it was completely different. First off,
What?
First off, I'm sitting in my office with stacks upon stacks of paperwork. It looked like something out of Harry Potter. You couldn't see me. Anyways, and I get this text or this message in this group chat we're in. It's like, oh, let's do a game. And I just was like, yeah, let's do it. Why not? I was just trying to be nice and fit in with the crowd and just not be that Debbie Downer and not start any drama. I was just like, I'll do whatever. It's fun. If that makes you happy, whatever. Little did I know that I'm starting this whole fucking intergalactic war about
You
this
fucked
game.
up. You fucked up.
Well, no, to be fair, I knew this wasn't going to happen because none of us have the time or the energy to commit to buying a $20 gift.
Well, at this point, I'm
That's
like,
really
there's
sad.
not even enough time for Amazon to get me anything, and I'm not going to a store. That's not happening. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to root around the house and find something weird for people. That's fine. Anyway, long story short, that's not happening. We're just gonna, for how about this? Let's reflect a little bit on 2021 because were there any, I mean, I'm not a resolution person. I don't have a fucking dream journal. I don't have a vision board or whatever people call this crap. Like, I don't do that. I'm just like, oh my god, just fucking survive to the next day, and hopefully I'm breathing, right? So was there anything this year that you accomplished that you were like, for 2021, this is something that I would like to do, and did it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say there was a big thing that I accomplished that I've talked a lot on this show, and that's doing a grid life event. I think that was a huge, huge, huge accomplishment for me, anyways. I know it sounds pretty weak to some people. It's like, oh yeah, I race every weekend, but
Not the people who
you
listen
know,
to this, they're fucking
you
blown
know,
away. I'm blown
jumping
away.
in a, trailering your car, across the country, getting on a track that you've never been on with a bunch of people that have way more experience than you. It was nerve-wracking, but it was the coolest experience, and I'm so thankful I was able to do it.
I mean, frankly, it's blown my mind how efficiently you managed to do this. How you were not like immediately fired from your job because they're like, this fucking guy just races cars. He's taking vacation time. Because that's how I always feel about corporate America is they get mad at you when you actually pursue a dream. So good on you for holding down the fort and making this work and doing it with Corey in order to like basically strengthen your you race cars and maintained and oh god, this is the thing. I got my teeth fixed and now I don't have my Invisalign on and I can't talk anymore. It's bad.
I was gonna say the reason you keep saying straighten is because you've gotten Invisalign.
It's hard.
Just
That's not
everything's
sponsored.
straightening.
That's not sponsored. So just go get whoever you want if you want to straighten your teeth. But no, I think you really integrated it into your life, and I think we all had fun watching it. And I know that it was a struggle to figure out how to kind of make it work, but you got into a rhythm by the end, and there you were every weekend jumping in the Durango, throwing the Honda on a trailer, and sending her out mid to the Midwest.
Dude, the amount of sends I did just to get out there, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I did my research. I made as much spreadsheets and documents as I could to try to make it as painless as possible, lists upon lists of things I should bring, the pros and cons from weight perspective, like towing with all the weight. Um, but at the end of the day, you just got to do it, right?
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
can read as much information about backing up a trailer, but until you actually do it, you have not a fucking clue what you're doing. And just learning everything on the fly like that, I don't recommend it, but I did it, and thankfully Corey was there to help me when I needed it, and vice versa. And we had an awesome experience. We met so many cool people, and I can't thank Acuity enough for giving me the opportunity to do these events. They've been such a big supporter the past few years, especially this year. And I'm so thankful.
All right. Well, that's your Oscar speech.
There's no music though to wrap it up. 2021 for both you and I, we've accomplished things that we thought were dreams, right? Like your whole YouTube, social media career, that was just sort of like a twinkle in your eye a few years ago.
Oh,
I mean, you and
100%.
I would sit down at the apartment after our miserable days in the city of Boston. Well, you weren't working in Boston, but we'd get home and, all we would talk about is how to get you to this level, the next level.
Yeah.
And now that you're doing it, I think it's just amazing that A, you're still able to do it, you didn't give up, but also that it's turned into this unbelievable community of people that you've met. And I'm just so happy to see you just doing so well.
It's
It's
fun.
so awesome.
It's good. So for 2022, I think there's a good segue into 22. Um, what's next, right? So you're going to continue. I feel like we're going to build upon the things we started this year. And for me, I have gotten into a routine, and my biggest problem is that like when I get into a routine, I get comfortable and then I get depressed. And even if things like are going well and I'm doing the thing, it's, I've just crumbled into another job, right? You're like, okay, I get up, I go here, I get the car, I put the camera on, I drive the car, I bring it back, I go home, I edit it, I publish it, I monitor comments, I do the thing. And I've gotten this nice tidy little routine. This year, what I really want to be able to do is kind of get outside of my comfort zone. And that might mean changing up, or not changing, but like adding to the style of the videos to get more watch time, right? Because like I follow metrics on YouTube very, very closely. And so obviously you want to get those views, you want to get that click-through rate, you want to get that CPM, which is like how much money per thousand views. And then you want to get that watch time, and you want to get that average watch time up. And certain videos will do heavy watch time. Like if you're explaining something, right? Like if there's a story, I'm going to teach you how to drive on a highway. Those have high watch times. If you have like, here's a car, and if someone just wanted to get a taste of like, what does this thing sound like and look like? If they've seen it, heard it, and they're done. They might not care what I have to say about it. They might just kind of like give it a quick glance and they're like, all right, cool, I'm good, bye. But what you want to do is keep them hooked. So different people have different strategies for this. So I'm going to play around with a couple things. That's one of my big goals, is just to improve on the watch time of the channel, which to be honest, I'm actually really thrilled with where it's at. I just want it to be obnoxiously high. I want it to be good. That's probably my number one. But the other thing is just to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, because I'm starting to get comfortable doing what I'm doing, which in some ways is really good because it means I can kind of do it with my eyes closed, and that's healthy. That's good that you're able to accomplish something. But if it gets too routine, that's when you start to find the burnout, and I want to feel more excited more of the time. And I want to have more fun doing what I'm doing. And I think you got to push yourself a little bit to get stuff. So that might mean taking the 911 on a couple road trips. That might mean traveling a little bit for cars. Not necessarily like, I don't know, traveling for cars is always a tricky one because it's not always efficient financially, because you end up spending all this time and dedicating a lot, like literally like days to go get to the car, film the car, do the thing where like I could have filmed 3 or 4 cars in that same time period. So I got to be cautious about how I do this stuff. But I don't know. I'm excited to have a little more mobility now that I've got the laptop that can actually handle 4K editing.
In 2022, you're, getting out of your comfort zone. Do you think we'll expect to see any vlogging again? Bringing that back?
I am so scared to do that because 2
Well,
reasons.
now you got straight teeth, so
I got
don't
these
pull that shit
straight teeth.
again.
So 2021, one of my big things was I bit the bullet and I got myself the braces. And I am actually, for the first time, I'm like, oh, cool, my teeth look good. I always had crooked teeth, and they weren't horrible, like, but it bothered me. I'm not knocking anybody with crooked teeth. There's plenty of people who pull off their crooked teeth. Plenty of people who just don't give a shit. But I cared, and I'm like, this is the only form of like cosmetic anything I'll ever do. Like, I'm not a hair plug guy. If I lose all my hair, not getting hair plugs. I'm not gonna get a nose job, but I'm like, yeah, I could get some straight teeth. So I figured if I'm gonna,
Well, I mean, besides all the Botox that you've been pumping into you the last
got to
couple
stay
years.
wrinkle free, baby. That man, what a fucking ad that would be if I could just straight up advertise Botox to car people. Talk about a terrible ad placement directed at the wrong people. Uh, but yeah, I mean, like I would consider doing some vlogging, or integrating some vlogging into a car review, right? And I think that's the trick. It's not being like, well, guys, I'm waking up and eating cereal and then I'm going to brush my teeth. Like, nobody cares, but you can play the game of you can play the road trip game, right? So imagine we're out with like 3 or 4 cars and we're going to go drive through Vermont or New Hampshire or something. We can play the game of test driving the cars in different scenarios, but also showing off like the Miata road trip basically, but as a car review.
The the perception of buying your Miata and then immediately going to an unbelievable road and driving this amazing back road on a weekend vacation with your hair and the wind and everything, that's all BS. You can get like a 5 minute, cruise around here, maybe 2 or 3 corners like back to back, and then traffic.
I think
Or there's a cop,
I think
you know.
almost everybody's vision of buying their first supercar is actually executed because they have this fantasy of like leaving or pulling up to their high school in like a Lamborghini. And I swear to God, it doesn't matter if you're like 19 or you're fucking 50. I think that really is what sells it. It's like this vision, like this unrealistic vision of, oh, I'm gonna look so fucking cool in this thing, and you never do. I've driven all these cars, and the thing is, you look a little cool in it, but unless you're like already a confident, cool guy, like I'm not a cool guy. Okay, I am in
Oh, stop.
No, I'm not. I'm in Dr. M3's Aventador, and I pull up to get gas somewhere, and people literally flock to the car, and it's fun to some extent, but I'm also horrified because I'm just like, I don't embody this at all. At all. Like, I'm not the guy.
Yeah, you're not in, your expensive shoes and tons of jewelry.
No. I
Um,
mean, I don't think I ever
you don't
would
have
be
your
that
rap
person.
label.
I'm like usually rolling out of bed like, yeah, it's sweatpants and a Acuity sweatshirt, and here we are. Oh, cards
uh,
declined.
I so like the Camaro, all I get for in sort of like a response level wise, like from people,
From people that
is
don't know
just
what this is, you got a beefy like a pretty heavily tuned like 700 horsepower Camaro ZL1.
it. All it brings is either people who had one in the 60s or 70s,
The worst.
oh, I had one of those in the war
The
and I had to
worst.
let it go, the kid. Or I get the, oh my God, it's Bumblebee from the kids.
Oh, gross.
So it's not what I thought. I thought it was going to be really. I'm just kidding.
No, but this
But
actually
I thought,
that brings up a good
yeah. Sorry,
point,
keep
though.
going.
No, that brings up a good point. So one of the most common, so one of the videos that got big on my channel this year that I did never and never in a million years thought this would be like one of the big ones that blew up. But it was a 1981 Pontiac Firebird. It was Trans Am, and
TA.
it's my friend Justin's car. The car is cool. Like he sold it. It did well. Good for him. He put it on Bring a Trailer. I did the photos for him and stuff. But like the car, it had an engine swap, so it had a small block Chevy in it. It sounded really good, but like it's a 1981 Pontiac. It's not a Ferrari. It's very loose. It has a bunch of body roll. Like none of it really made you feel like really confident. Like I'm gonna go hammer down this back road and annihilate these corners. Like you're kind of hanging on. Okay. Now keep in mind, the people who all owned these cars, they probably totaled them, and the ones they owned probably had 145 horsepower because they all had that like, and a lot of these came with Chevy engines. They came with like a Chevy 305.
Yeah.
Some of them came with the Formula 440 or whatever, but like, for the most part, I bet most of the ones these people drove were like 140 horsepower to the crank.
hmm
And yet, me driving this about 400 horsepower 350 small block Chevy Transplant Trans Am and saying, yeah, it's got a bit of body roll and the steering's a little loose and like this, they're like, that car must be fucked up because the Pontiac Trans Am Firebird is the best car ever made. I used to race these things back in the day, and I'll tell you what, I would beat the pants off of that, any equivalent Ferrari, and they're going on like this is God's gift to the fucking world. And that by today's standards, not joking, they're telling me that by today's standards, this car is still better than anything else on the road. And here's the thing, I'm not knocking the car. But if you're going to be like, what's your job, Tom? My job is to drive cars and tell you how they feel. And if I don't do that, and all I do is, can you imagine me going out in a 1981 Pontiac and telling you that this by far is the greatest car I have ever driven and that I have nothing to add, I have nothing to critique, and that this suspension, steering, braking system, everything, it's just dead on. I think that all these automakers today could learn a lot from this. Where are the Audi engineers? Where are the M engineers? Where's AMG? Get them in this Pontiac. Is that what I'm supposed to say?
Well, if you're trying to impress the Pontiac fans, then yeah, but
I bet there's a lot of money in that.
I think, oh yeah, oh my God, if you want to sell flaming chicken,
I just can't believe I just
apparel.
never in a million years expected that these would be the comments I would have to stare at on a daily basis. It blows my brains apart.
Dude, you pick on somebody and enough, they'll get upset and they'll start getting rowdy. And apparently, you really did some damage to the Pontiac enthusiasts of the North American region.
It's hysterical. They get on there and they tell me that this is they're like, you're not doing it justice. This is the fastest car I ever drove. And I'm like thinking like, oh my God, like in period, these weren't that quick.
No, they were slow. They were heavy. They were on a chassis from 1956. And the only thing redeeming about them was the fact that they were in a really cool movie, Smokey and the Bandit.
Also, they didn't get my sarcasm. One of the comments I made at the beginning, I said, whoever spec'd this car was just tasteless because they didn't get the T-tops or the flaming chicken on the hood. Obviously joking. Like, obviously I'm not joking. And people were like, I don't know, I think it looks pretty good. I'm like, no shit. Oh, all right. That's enough about that. I had to get that off my chest. That's actually weighed on me for a while. That particular car and the comments I get about that car have really driven me nuts for a long time. And like, I love it. I like the car. I don't know what else to say. Like, I had fun, but I'm like, wow, the hill people will die on for things is just fucking mind blowing.
So for 2022's resolution, do you have anything to say to the Pontiac fans that are listening? So maybe one person.
I'm going to drive all the fucking Pontiacs I can this year.
We need an Aztec.
You know what I want to drive? Well, yeah, an Aztec would be dope. But I want to drive like a GT, like a Grand Prix GTP, like those.
Oh, the one with the buttons on the steering wheel.
Yeah, and they have like. There was a supercharged one. Those were quick. Those were like, it was a 3500 with a supercharger or something like that.
Yeah, I would love to see a Fiero.
Yeah, Fiero would be cool.
Fiero would be cool.
I want to drive some
GTO.
Yeah, well, that'd be fun.
The new one.
It would be fun to do that. But I want to do some more oddball cars. I want to drive. I think I might have a line on a Glickenhaus boot, which would be really cool. That'd be big.
That'd be cool.
And then up at Ace Performance, I want to drive the Aerial Nomad. I want to get more seat time in the Atom as well, and hopefully some track time on the Atom, and that would be something that I'd be so afraid to even put that on video because I'm gonna have to like really suss that car out because like it's a lot of car, and putting me on track in that's like, hey, I need to take my time and like learn this thing a little bit.
I would love to come watch you rip that little thing around.
It'd be fun.
That'd be so cool.
So hopefully we can put something together with Ace Performance up in Tewksbury, Mass.
Bear's a great guy, and I'm sure he would love to see you doing some cool stuff with it.
Watch him line up a bunch of Pontiacs for me.
Yeah, speaking of Pontiacs, I thought of two while we were talking. The Vibe GT.
Yeah, it was a Toyota Matrix.
Which is really cool. Yep, but with the 1ZZ.
Yeah, the 1.8 liter. Yeah, amazing that's like one of the greatest Pontiacs is a Yamaha engine. Okay.
And then the Solstice.
Ooh, yeah, that is ugly.
Right? The Solstice with the turbocharger.
Nothing says I am from like Jacksonville, Florida, like a Solstice.
So, anyways, what else you'd like to talk about other than Pontiac?
Well, all right. I've got some questions here, so let's
Oh,
see
you
if we
do.
let's see if we can. Oh, fuck me. All
Oh,
right.
you're taking me?
I'm
Where am
gonna.
I going?
Yeah, I just got to move you a little bit. All right. Here's one for Eddie. I'd be interested to know if Eddie left foot brakes the Civic when he's applying gas to eliminate understeer.
Ah, that's a good question. That car does not like to be left foot braked.
I don't
Uh,
take you for a left foot breaker to begin with.
I will do it very occasionally. I used to do it a lot when I was autocrossing
Okay.
because if I messed up, then well, I would spin out and that's it. The risk to reward on a racetrack when you're not 100% confident in left foot braking is basically crashing. So I try not to do it unless it's either an emergency situation like, oh fuck, everything in, or I'm just like lightly getting it to rotate in like the person was saying. But I rarely do it. The car already has enough rotation built into it where I don't ever really need to brake unless I'm trying to do it on purpose. And I of course do that once in a while just for fun. But I keep my suspension setups really loose. So I like the car to move around a lot.
Sure. All right.
Yeah.
And then I already kind of gave mine, but any 2022 resolutions that you'd like to put on the record?
Oh man, I've got a lot. I have a list actually, Tom.
Is it on
And
your vision board? Have you cut
it's
out?
on it's from my Ouija board actually.
So you read this great
And
book this year called The Secret, and if you just put the pictures up, it will manifest.
yes, exactly. And I check my horoscope every day. Um, I think for 2022, I want to be more consistent with my abilities. I want to be better. I think the problem I had last year, other than trying to learn everything really quickly, was there was never really any sort of consistency because of the fact that I really was just learning it. So now, having learned a lot of stuff, now I can go into next year for grid life and feel a lot more confident. I'm not running around worried about things. And some of the tracks this year I've already been to, you know. So actually, all of them I'm going to this year. I've been to.
Well, there you go.
Um, and then 22 resolution. Other than that, just stay healthy and stay safe and see you guys more. See you more.
Yeah, I mean,
So.
for me, the big thing, like, other than career stuff, it really is just coming down to like lifestyle stuff where I need to be, because I used to run every single day. I was
Mm,
in the gym every single day, and like my reasoning for that is not to be like I'm gonna be like I want to be in a bathing suit getting Instagram photos. It was more just like I want to keep my sanity and I want to be ambulatory when if I ever make it to like 80, I want to be a healthy person. And man, this year, I mean, I'm up and about all the time, but like I obviously I'm not going to the gym because like, COVID kind of put a damper on that. And then I haven't been running. It's cold, so I really just need to like kick my own ass and make sure that I'm eating better and doing the right things like for my health. Because like God, I just get so emotionally drained and destroyed, and I'm exhausted all the time if I don't do some form of like cardio. It's just one of those things. You got to do it,
hmm
and the benefits of it are so immediately apparent. Like you just feel better so quick if you run every day for 2 weeks or every other day for 2 weeks. And I don't mean like 5, 10 miles. Like go run a half a mile, go run a mile, go run 500 feet. Doesn't fucking matter. You
Do what
will
you could do.
you will literally just feel better. Like it immediately changes your life. And it's so nuts how we are so quick to jump. And it's so much easier to just smoke weed and drink and like take a gummy and watch Netflix and pass out and then sleep too late. And then, oh shit, now I'm waking up at 10 and my day sucks. And then you can't take a shit because you eat terrible. And it's just everything falls apart. And it's amazing if you just do the bare minimum of like a little bit of exercise, eat a little bit better, chug less Red Bulls. Sorry, Max Verstappen. But you gotta just, I don't know. I just gotta keep it together. I'm just trying to keep it together.
Yeah, routines have definitely changed for both of us. I mean, I used to go to the gym after work. Now I try to go to work out at home with my girlfriend. It's a lot more difficult. I was on a routine for a while. But something I've picked up again is snowboarding. I bought a snowboard for the first time in like 10 years. So I'm basically relearning. And at 28 years old, it is a lot more difficult than when I was like 17 years
I
old.
can
So,
imagine. See, I haven't skied in a long time, but I used to ski when I was a kid, and that's something I'd like to get back into. And this actually goes into another resolution is that I need to stop playing the game of like, well, when I'm rich and have more time, because it's so easy to play the game of like, oh, well, I'd like to do that, but like when I've got more money and when I've got more time. And it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, like, just fucking do it. Like, you can do it. We're not talking about like buying a yacht here. We're talking about like some leisure activity. It's not that crazy. And I'm not paying for kids to go to college, and I probably never will. So I should just go buy myself some skis and do some things. But, that, man, it's so hard. I think we all delay things. Because we think we're going to be like in such a more comfortable position, like in a year, and like it never happens. And it's really hard to live in the present when you're always just looking out for the next thing. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to have one of those when I have more money and more time.
well, our perceptions are all skewed because of our parents' generation, I think. And what movies and
Stop.
television show
You're
as
see now you're playing with shit and you're making noise. I'm not
I'm
crazy.
not, no, dude, I'm not touching anything.
Uh,
I'm literally not touching anything.
Hands up, hands up. Show
I,
me hands. Show me those
okay,
hands.
well, anyways, I don't know what to do with my hands. Um, yeah, no, I think all of us thought, you get to like 35 years old, you have a family, a beautiful house, and everything's happily ever after.
Oh,
Um,
our
but
parents were like, "Oh, 35, I'm buying the second house. Let's get that fucking
no,
beach house going." You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we actually I never had
exactly.
that, but that was the thing. It was like half the kids I went to school with like, "Oh, their parents have a Cape House or parents have like a house in St. Martin or some shit." And you're like, okay. How about this? Sorry. See, I'm all over the place. I did not have a concise list prepared, but I also 2022 I would like to buy my own place, and that doesn't mean I'm gonna go buy some fucking like, you know, giant compound, but I do want like an apartment. I just want like a one bed. I just want like a 1 bedroom apartment with like some nice safe parking under the building for one car, and then I'm gonna leave the rest of the stuff at Garage 42, and that's gonna be my life.
And that is 1.6. No.
Yeah.
Uh,
It honestly, everything's so expensive, but I'm hoping I can do that this year. That's something I really like to do. The market's bananas, but I really don't think we're in some crazy bubble. Like everyone thinks like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to buy one of those cars when they come back down." I'm like, "Sweetie, they are not coming back down. They are
nope, they're not going to
buoyant."
make the cars, so
Yeah.
it's always going to stay in demand. What's another question?
Da, 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 da. Perfect 3-car garage.
That's impossible.
I don't think
We
I can answer these
we
questions.
we both have three-car garages, and they're not perfect.
No, there's no such thing.
No, no such
So
thing.
I mean, let's do a broad stroke here though. Like I like to have a classic, so I've got my 911. I like to have a sports car, so 911, and I like to have a great daily driver. So I guess a newer 911. So just buy
So
a
you
bunch of
could just have one
911s.
car,
Yeah, you can just have
just
one
one
car.
911.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
but I mean, otherwise, like I like what I've got going on right now. I've got the M5, which is kind of like a cool classic grand touring thing that I can go and actually, I mean, it's very functional. It's a very usable car, and it can make a good impression at a car show or Cars and Coffee, but it's also like pretty suitable for making a long trip. And then the 911 is very very obnoxiously sports car and race car, and it ticks all the boxes of like having a classic that isn't a nightmare. Like I don't have to tune carbs on the thing. It's injected. It's pretty easy to live with, honestly, that car. And then the M3 will go away and hopefully not lose I probably won't lose that much money on that car because the market's kind of buoying up right now on those as well. And then I'll have like a pretty simple Honda. And I think one of the lessons I've learned that I will hopefully take with me for a long time is just to have a reliable daily driver that you can go and just not care that much about.
Yeah, I'm glad you're finally coming to your senses. I mean, this is a long time coming. We've talked about this for years, right? The M3 is not a good daily driver. but it's treated you well, so why get rid of it?
Yeah, well, the
Um,
thing is, it's treated me well,
Up until
but
now.
I mean, it's always been the same. There's not like a turning point with this car. There has always been like a just wait for the next problem and then throw money at
Hmm.
it, and wait for the next problem and throw money at it, and that's how most people live with their cars. The difference is when you play that game with a Civic, it's like a quarter the price of playing that game with a BMW. And
Yeah.
the reality is like, has my M3 ever left me stranded? No. I mean, I've like lost throttle actuators, but I can still drive the car. And have I had plenty of check engine lights for all kinds of things? Yes, but everything has been fixable, mendable. The the issue with these cars is that they are fairly intricate in the way they work, and they're sensitive. So sometimes you have to do some digging, and it's the unknown that frustrates you. It's like going on the forums and being like, what's this sound? Or what's this code really mean? Or I replaced this sensor and it didn't fix the thing. So what's going on? That's where you start to like resent the car. And that's really all
Hmm.
I can say is like at that point you start to get angry with it, and it gets difficult.
Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship because it's such a cool car. It does so many things great, but when it starts having little foibles, that's when you're like, man, I wish I still had that 99 Civic or that Jetta, you know.
Well, and
It would
Doug
have cost
DeMuro,
me.
yeah, Doug DeMuro brought up a good point. He made a video about financing versus paying cash for cars. But the big thing that I took away from that video that I'm really glad he said, because I say this once in a while, and people are like, I don't care, I'll daily anything. Is he was like, look, if you have to stretch your budget and you need, the only time I think he said the only time it's really appropriate to stretch your budget if it's in the name of safety. So if you don't have enough money, but you want a safe car, like what's more important than surviving a car crash? Like literally nothing. There is like, and I'll tell you, I've driven a lot of sketchy cars, a lot of classic cars, and they all have their place. They really do. And I'm not saying don't drive them. I'm just saying don't make that 95% of your driving, and that's why the M3 has been my daily driver. It's the newest car I own. It's probably easily the safest car I own. And one of the reasons why I'm not going to go get a 99 Civic and be like, well, look at all the money I'm saving. I only spent like, $1,900 on this Civic. Well, the reality is because a 99 Civic is not going to take a hit from a modern vehicle. Everything out there today is so heavy. It's huge. I I really wish, oh man, this is like a different conversation, and I don't know if we want to go down this rabbit hole right now, but my biggest issue with the auto industry, it's not even about gas versus electric. It's that we allowed, or the auto industry allowed people to just keep increasing the weight of the vehicles. The weight
Mm.
of the average weight of vehicles has probably gone sky high. And I know that in like the 1970s, American cars were fucking huge. But look, we used to drive sedans and wagons and things that weighed closer to 3,000 pounds. Everything weighs 4,000 plus now. And we have adapted to these fucking CUV crossover bullshit
Oh,
nightmares
yeah,
on
piece
four
of
wheels.
shit.
And now the problem with it is that, yeah, sure, you could say, well, then don't buy them. Okay, well, if I'm driving around in a Miata and I get hit by a Honda Pilot, that's my head gone. Like everything is tall, everything is heavy, but I don't blame people for buying them either because you basically have to. Because if you want to be safe, this is what you have to do now. Like if everybody in the world is buying some giant car and you're the one driving around in a little roadster, like 90% of the time, like you're gonna get decapitated. Like that's just what's gonna happen. And like you can be stubborn and continue to drive your car, but like, for me, I'll tell you, even in the past few years, I went from driving my 911 and feeling pretty safe on the road to like I get out there and I'm like, I don't know, everything's pretty big around me. And I make pretty concerted efforts to drive the sports cars, like the little sports cars in specific areas at specific times of the day.
When you can smell the wheel bearing that's going out on the Ford Explorer from 1997 right next to you, that's when you know I'm in danger.
Rather than making the cars smaller or lower or any of the things, they just took the same mentality and they were like, oh, well, let's just turn them into race cars. And so they were like, okay, let's make this like piece of garbage body on frame SUV that we've created in the 1980s and make it a unibody. And then we're going to add a ton of power. And then by the time you're done, all you've done is put so many Band-Aids on a design that should never have existed and tried to make it handle like the car that nature intended it to be, which is like all you had to do is build a car, and instead you just like fought gravity and came up with an X5M.
Yeah, the future of cars is looking bleak, but I have faith.
I have
So
faith. I know that there are, I'm not trying to be that grim. Like we have so many, like, everyone's always like, oh no, cars are dying. What's next? I'm like, are you kidding me? There's so much going on. Like there's changes for sure. And like electrification is inevitable in a lot of ways. But I mean, look what Porsche's doing right now. Look what Lamborghini's doing right now. Look at this STO. That thing, while I think it's hysterically ugly, this Huracan, this rear-wheel drive Huracan is so insane and capable, and it's probably one of the better driver's cars out there. And who knew Lamborghini would be our little driver's car savior at this point? It's so wild.
yeah, 5 years ago we would have been like, ha, yeah, never would happen.
I'm excited for them. I think Lamborghini has a really strong future. I'm very excited for Lamborghini, and I never thought of myself as a Lamborghini guy, because I always thought of Lamborghinis as like poser cars. I always thought, and I don't mean that
Hmm.
like in a really insulting way. I'm just saying like that's, 10, 15 years ago, I always liked them, but I always kind of thought of them more as poser cars, whereas like the Ferrari, that was the track car. That was the one who'd really like to drive. And now I'm kind of not feeling that.
Well, let's look at the history of Lamborghini. It's a competition. The whole reason it happened is because of Ferrari or whatever, and it's a poser Ferrari.
It is.
You know,
And,
they
and
it's a
And they drive better on the
that's the
street,
reason.
frankly. They do. They do drive. Actually,
Oh,
which isn't totally fair. A 458, actually, holy shit, dude. A 458 is actually really, really nice to drive on the road. It's like someone got really mad at me because I was like, this is a better M3 than an M3. And they're like, how dare you compare a Ferrari to an M3? I'm like, go drive this car. Like, literally, pretend you're not in a Ferrari. Go daily drive a 458. Fucking awesome.
my favorite Ferrari is a 458.
It's
I
great.
love that
It's
car.
like it's like shockingly easy to live with. It's bumpy road mode. Oh my god! Like the car actually becomes compliant and soft, and like it doesn't beat you up. I'm like, wow, this is shocking. That was like my biggest shock of 2021 was like, oh my god, the 458's like really easy. I always thought it was a lot more like hard edged. I mean, I wasn't a speciale, but still.
Dude, you're on the money. I think after the 458, they haven't captured that Ferrari magic that they had with the naturally aspirated cars.
I do think their future with the 296 coming up is going to be exciting. I think they're onto something. I think they're in this like really weird zone where the SF90 makes no sense, and it's kind of like this awkward, like they had to do it to get over the hump, like they needed something to like stretch across the bridge. And then 296, I think is going to be good. Roma is a weird car, but I actually think similar to the California, people kind of like Californias now, or California T's, I should say. I think the Roma is a better Aston Martin than an Aston Martin. I mean, the Vantage is objectively not a very good car. Like, they're not great. I've driven a bunch of them. They're okay, but I don't. That's not where I'd put my money. And if you can get the build quality up on it, like they don't rattle and stuff. And if the Ferrari Roma doesn't do that, then boom. Why would you buy the Aston when you can have a Ferrari?
The Roma looks good too. In my opinion, I think it looks good.
It's okay. Yeah.
The interior a little too electronic-y. I feel like that's going to be a serious downfall in about 5 years. But other than that, I think it's a good car and it's a good stepping stone if you're starting with Ferrari and you want to jump to something a little bit faster in the future.
Yeah,
It's a good
I do hope
good
that
beginner car.
auto manufacturers stop the insanity with the screens and the touchy things. Like I don't know why they think this is the way. It is so clearly not the way. It is so clearly not what we want. And I don't understand. There's so many watch enthusiasts in the car community. Why are they giving us Apple Watches inside the cars instead of Rolex Daytonas or Speedmasters. Like, why are we not getting more refined knobs and clicks and touch points when all of their audience just wants a Panerai or a Patek? And yet here they are handing us a fucking touch screen. I don't care. Why would any of their customers want to swipe something on a car to change the volume when they could click a button or turn a knob? This makes no sense to me. I will never understand this. I know it's financially probably easier for them because they can program things and make more money by reducing costs because they don't have as many components. But seriously, tell me what Ferrari owner is like, who's wearing the Apple Watch in a Ferrari? No, you're probably wearing some really fancy watch with all the movements visible when you take it off and turn it over, right?
Yeah.
And I bet you don't set it by swiping the fucking screen, do you? I bet you have to pull out the crown and turn the knob and do all the things, and that's what you like about it. So why on earth would someone want a $300,000-$500,000 car that operates like the piece of shit watch they never wear? I don't get it.
I would say one word, and it's Tesla. Everybody has this fantasy of having this unbelievable user interface that's like your Windows or your Mac. But the reality is, automakers other than Tesla haven't figured it out. They haven't spent the money to make an operating system.
Give us what happens when a laptop comes out and instead of a keyboard, it has a screen on the bottom half of it and it's just a touchpad and that's your keyboard? Do you think that's good?
You're fucked when it needs an update and you haven't updated it.
So it's
not going to work.
So why the fuck do I want a car with that shit?
Well, like I said, I mean, Tesla's figured it out, right? But they have multiple computers.
Have they?
It works 50, 60% of the time. It works well. It works better than you know.
Look, I'm not saying don't have an option. I mean, Tesla is the Apple Watch of cars. So great, do the thing. But why do I want it's funny because people shit on the Aston. And I'm going to give Aston a little push on this one. I appreciate, even though it's maybe not the most beautiful interior, there's buttons everywhere. You hit buttons to touch things in the Aston Martin. Like, you put it in gear with the buttons. Mm-hmm. And yet here we are with Ferrari, and they've even taken away the start button. You got to swipe to start the Roma, I'm pretty sure. And I don't like that. What are you doing? Give me the satisfaction. Here you have Lamborghini still with the fighter jet start stop button. Yes, give me more of that. I don't want to tap a screen to start my incredible motor car. I don't want to tap a screen to know what time it is. I want to look at my Patek Philippe.
The other reason is cost. How much money are they saving instead of putting all this complex buttons and switches and knobs than just one giant piece of plastic and glass?
Fully understand it when it comes to the Tesla or like low budget cars, but I mean, come on, man. You know, one of the greatest joys in my life has been getting into 1960s and 70s like vintage Italian cars and listening and touching and turning and setting and all of the little gauges and stuff that pop up. And that's so entertaining to me. It doesn't need to end. It's a very easy thing to keep going. And it blows my mind when I get into these cars. And you know, you could say, oh, well, the cost cutting makes a lot of sense for lower end cars, and that's fine. But I mean, even Honda's realized that like a nice clicky HVAC system on the new Civic generation is like really nice. And it satisfies customers. Hyundai usually does a pretty good job with this too, because Hyundai's point of sale, they sell cars when people sit in them, right? And people sit in a Hyundai Elantra and they touch the gear shift, they touch the steering wheel, they touch a few buttons, they go, oh, this is great. And then what do? Then they get out of the car. They pull the lever and the door has a nice click. They might touch like the directional stalk. They go, this is a nice car, I'll buy it. And that's how Hyundai sells cars, because they realize like people get in, they touch all the things, and it's great. What's hard to sell is an Ultima CVT, basically like the worst plastics known to man and all of the things, and nothing feels good. I don't know about the newest ones, but like imagine rental cars of like 2015, 2016, right? And you immediately are like, oh my God, this belongs in a national fleet or a Hertz fleet.
I can't express enough how bad Honda botched that slider for the volume on that Type R,
Yeah, but
on
they
the
fixed
Type
it.
R.
They fixed it.
They fixed it. They fixed it. They listened. They fixed it.
So
And
hopefully
that's the
Ferrari's next.
I think Mercedes too, the S class. I was watching a video on that. I'm like, what if you have greasy fingers? That thing's going to get disgusting,
Yep. Oh yeah,
just caked.
I put my fingerprints all over that S580, and I was like, oh my
I like
goodness.
Cheetos. Sue me. All right,
Yeah.
can't be using that screen
Well,
now.
please don't be eating Cheetos in my S class.
I can do
One
whatever
last.
I want if I have an S class.
One last question. Okay. Favorite car movie?
Oh, Tom, we've gone over this a million times together.
I mean, I know what
What's
mine
your
is.
favorite car movie?
I'm
What's
gonna
your
get
favorite
I'm
car
gonna
movie?
get a lot of heat for this, but like I would love to say that my favorite car movie is Ronin or The French Connection or Bullet. It's not. It's fucking Nicolas Cage and Gone in 60 Seconds. I will watch that movie 1,000 times. I love it so much. And I know it's not as good as the original. I don't care. I like it. I could watch it over and over again, and I can literally say every single line. It has all of the cars that I love from my childhood, and it is just pure awesomeness. The only thing is, God damn it, we didn't know. We should have been looking out for Angelina in those days because she was too fucking thin. She was not healthy. She was not good. You look at her arms and you go, please help this girl. She needs somebody to help her out. She was not good. And all we did was say, man, she's fucking hot. Look at her tits and her lips and her hair and all this shit. I'm like, that girl was 80 pounds. We should have been looking out. So bad on us, but fucking awesome movie.
I love that movie. You and I quote that movie all the time.
Two
Uh,
Rogers don't make a right.
I exactly. Oh my God. And also, you know what I love about that is that movie has become iconic because of the cars, and that's what the movie, that's what it's about. It's not about the acting or Angelina Jolie. I mean, it's nice and all, but it was Eleanor, and I think that was what the original movie was about: the cars and the car chasing, and the crashes and everything. Um, for me, car movies, I mean, oh man, there's so many. I mean, I love the original Fast and Furious. That movie as a kid, that sort of sparked my understanding of Japanese import cars. I really didn't know anything about them until that movie. I mean, I knew what they were, but that kind of got me into the sort of, well, Honda Civics are cool, which is funny because then I thought they were, the ricer car and everybody made fun of them. And then come full circle, now I love Hondas.
Look at you
So,
go.
uh, love Fast and the Furious. I like Ford versus Ferrari. I know that movie is a love it or hate it to a lot of people, but I just love the driving and I think the acting in that one's a little bit better than Gone in 60 Seconds. And I'm sure there's a million that I'm missing. I mean, obviously, all the old classics are
Well, you only
good.
get to pick one. It's a favorite.
One,
You can't have two
Fast and
favorite.
Furious, the
Okay.
original.
All right. So Gone in 60 Seconds and Fast and Furious. That is a quality movie nights.
2000, early 2000s, what is it, like 2001? I think both of them
I think both of them. I
around the
think
same
actually no,
time.
I think Gone in 60 Seconds was 99. I don't think that
Oh,
made it into 2000.
such a good movie. I'm gonna go watch it later.
It's so good. That's so good.
So good.
It's so good. We made everybody watch it in California on the trip, didn't we? Didn't we make everybody
Yeah,
watch that?
it was just you and me watching it
Yeah,
at the end.
everyone else
Everybody
fell
else had
asleep.
fallen
They're like,
asleep.
this movie's boring. And we're like,
Exactly.
look at
What's up?
Nicolas Cage go.
355, such an old car.
Memphis Reigns. All right. Well, I don't know. This is pre-recorded. It's going to get released after New Year. So to everybody listening, Happy New Year. Happy 2022. Be safe. Drink a little less than you normally would, just so that way you don't have to be like one of those National Hangover Day participants. It's better to spend January 1st a little less hungover than your friends. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. And quick note before we go, my car is now in iRacing.
Oh yeah.
Acuity Instruments somehow managed to take a shrink my car into the Matrix, and now you can download it and use it, and it's free. So if you play iRacing and you like my Honda, no worries if you don't. I know it's not everybody's taste, especially if you don't like purple or teal, but you can download it for free and use it on the TCR Civic.
How can they find it on iRacing? What's it called?
So if you go to tradingpaints.com, you search Acuity, it should pop up.
There we go.
And then you just download it and use it to your own free will. Use it at your own free will.
Sweet.
So,
well, that's it. I'll see you in 2 days.
I'll see you next year.
Oh, no. And that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. Thanks for supporting the podcast on Patreon. Thank you for watching the YouTube channel. It means the world to me. I hope you guys drive safely out there. Don't get too cocky in the snow. Make sure you got the right rubber. Leave a proper distance. Don't be that guy. God, I hate it when you guys send me the photos of your crashed cars on, on tow trucks in the winter. Take it easy out there. I mean, have fun. Go slide around, but, do it within reason. Understand your own limits. And I hope you enjoyed listening to me and Eddie shoot the shit again for another hour on the podcast. Don't forget to respect the drive. I'll see you soon.